Zelensky and his government in Ukraine, they've gone ahead and done two things. So they've banned 11 opposition parties. I mean, the way they frame it, they make it sound very nice. They basically banned all media and consolidated it into one channel, into state media, right? Let's dive into this. So this is from The Guardian. Ukraine suspends pro-Russian political parties and condemns war crimes against Mariupol. Let me just play you where he says this.
Будь-яка активність політиків, спрямована на розкол чи на колаборацію, не матиме успіху, але отримає жорстку відповідь. І тому Рада національної безпеки та оборони України вирішила, враховуючи повномасштабну війну, розв'язану Російською Федерацією та зв'язки деяких політичних структур з цією державою, призупиняється будь-яка діяльність низки політичних партій на час воєнного стану, а саме Опозиційна платформа «За життя», партія Шарія, Наші, Опозиційний блок, Ліва опозиція, Союз лівих сил, Держава, Прогресивна соціалістична партія України, Соціалістична партія України, партія Соціалісти, Блок Володимира Сальдо.
Wow. I guess those are the democratic and European values we keep hearing about, right? They keep telling us Zelensky is fighting for the soul of Europe, right? He's fighting to defend Europe and democracy from the Russian onslaught. Very democratic, right? Remind me, guys, quickly in the comments, what do you call that when the government decides to ban opposition parties and take over the media? Where have I seen that before? Huh? Sounds like a bit of a pickle. Now, let me show you what parties he's talking about and how they lean politically, right? So this is a list I put together. So this is the biggest one, Opposition Platform for Life. That's the biggest party he banned. They actually have many seats in parliament. Let me show you, this is from the 2019 legislative elections. You can see up here how many seats they have in parliament. So 43 seats in total. And they're banned now, they're gone. That's it. Incredible, right? So that's the biggest opposition party in Ukraine. It's banned, it's gone. Now again, where does that lean? It's more center. The other ones, Dershava is progressive, socialist, Nashi is center. You can see most of these are either center or left. Yes? So regardless of whether they have seats in parliament or not, of course that makes it more egregious. It's the principle. And I'd like to know one thing, because you know, he seems to have banned mostly, again, either center or left parties. I don't see any mention of Svoboda or any parties that have ties to neo-Nazis. Interesting, right? So he's banned the political parties in Ukraine that have ties to Russia, allegedly. But then the groups, the parties that have ties to neo-Nazis, like Svoboda, that's okay. That's not a problem. That's not a threat to the country. You got a weird country over there. What kind of government are you running exactly? Here's another thing that he's done, right? He's gone ahead and consolidated all the national TV channels to combat alleged misinformation. Oh God, it sounds like someone from from Biden's CIA wrote that. Lovely. So this is from Deadline. They say, in an address to his nation delivered Sunday, Ukrainian President Zelensky announced an order, quote, combining all national TV channels, the program content of which consists mainly of information and or information analytical programs, into a single information platform of strategic communication to be called United News. Wow, that's really a lovely way of putting it. You know, here, this is from Inquirer. Again, the headline reads, citing martial law, Zelensky signs decree to combine national TV channels into one platform. Now, you could argue that given that there are already national TV channels, it doesn't make a big of a difference. But again, the way that they say it, it's a unified information policy. You know, someone at the CIA wrote that. Like that's such a CIA thing to say. You know, they're basically like, it's fascism or authoritarianism, but under a different name. So instead of saying, well, we're taking over the media, this is ours now, it belongs to the government, everything, there's one channel only. It's a unified information policy. you gotta love this, right? They're so creative and colorful in how they do these things. It's just like everything else, right? No, we didn't kill civilians. They were just, they were collateral. They happened to be standing around. I just want to point out one thing, because a lot of people seem to think that Zelensky is justified in doing this. You know, they say basically, well, he's under attack. Ukraine is under attack. And this guy's defending his country. He's right. People say that Zelensky is right to ban these parties because they are working with the enemy, right? Didn't Zelensky say that these 11 parties are allegedly tied to Russia? A lot of people think that Zelensky is justified in doing this. They say that these parties that he banned, these 11 parties, they have ties to the enemy. They have ties to Russia. And that's why it's okay to ban them, because Ukraine is at war with Russia. And there's no room, there's no tolerance for, traitors and people who are collaborating or sympathetic to the enemy. And when I'm hearing these things, I'm just thinking to myself, man, if Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, did that, I'm pretty sure there would be another reaction from you guys. If Vladimir Putin used the war right now as an excuse to say every single platform, every single opposition party is banned, I'm combining all the national TV channels into one under a unified information policy. The Guardian, BBC would have no time picking that apart like soft bread and saying that the guy's taking over the media. He calls it unified information policy. He's taking over the media. They would have no problem saying that, right? The thing is, Syria, again, let me show you this map. I don't agree particularly with the nomenclature in the legend, but nevertheless, the map is more or less correct. Syria has been cut up. Syria has been split into many parts. You have over here the Americans and the Kurdish-led SDF. Up here you have Turkey in Idlib, right? And then down here you have the Israelis who are occupying the Golan Heights down there, okay? So basically Syria has been cut up into 4 parts, because you have the government-controlled areas, the Syrian Arab Army, but then you have the Americans in Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor to the northeast and the east, and then you have the Turks up there in the north in Idlib, and then down in the south you got the Israelis in the Golan Heights. 3 occupiers, not one, 3 occupiers. Now ask yourself and be honest with yourself. What reaction do you think these people would have that are now, cheering on Zelensky, banning opposition parties? What reaction do you think they would have if Bashar al-Assad decided to ban every single opposition party, particularly the ones that count, right? And then unify the media, right? As they're saying, unified information policy, they would lose it. If Putin did that, they would say he's Stalin. He's purging the Russian parliament. That's what they would say, right? He's purging the government of any opposition. That's the case. And that's what I'm pointing out. And people hate that. They don't like that, right? As soon as you point out the liberal hypocrisy, the hypocrisy of neoconservatives, they lose it. They start name calling. They don't know what to respond. And then you know what they say? They say, yeah, but Zelensky would never use chemical weapons against his own people. Bitch, I wasn't talking about chemical weapons. I was talking about banning opposition parties and consolidating the media. Don't talk to me about chemical or, salsa chemical weapons. I'm not asking you about that. I didn't ask you about anything. Sarin, chocolate, I'm not dealing with that. I asked you about, I didn't ask you anything, actually. I don't ask anyone anything. I'm telling you. Banning opposition parties, consolidating the media. If Bashar al-Assad did that, they would lose it. But the chemical weapons, shut the fuck up. There were no chemical weapons in Duma. I don't know what kind of science you're doing, but the guys who are actually scientists who went there, they say there was nothing. You just look at a map of the battle, Operation Damascus Steel, taking back Ghouta, and you're telling me while the Syrian army is winning, they just randomly decide to use chemical weapons? I'm done with this. Go away. Like you're trying to force onto us a reality that is not factual. You're making this up, like the WMDs in Iraq. They always make up some red line and then claim that whoever they want to attack crossed it so they can justify the bombing. And they did that. They bombed Syria, France, UK, US. And then, of course, they say, Zelensky would never bomb his own people. The Ukrainian government would never attack their own people. I think people in Donbass would like to have a word with you about that, right? Because I've showed you the figures from the United Nations. They're not my figures. I didn't invent them or write them. And between 2018 and 2021, the last 3 years, 81.4% of the people killed were in separatist-held areas. 81. So that's the vast majority. Who's killing them? Are they killing themselves? They're shelling themselves? Russia's shelling them? You're going to come here and play stupid with me? So even if you entertain these ridiculous claims where they try to move the goalposts, they don't add up. But again, let's go back to what happened here, what Zelensky's doing. He's banning opposition parties. His government is banning opposition parties and, of course, consolidating the media. And if someone that they don't like did that, they would lose it. And they would have no problem calling that person a dictator. They would have no problem calling that authoritarianism. But here it gets a pass. Do you know why? Because the real authoritarians are liberals. It's always okay to censor people, to ban people if they disagree with you. That's okay. Liberals love that. And that's why when you disagree with them, they try to get you censored, they name call, they do everything, except addressing the argument because they can't defend that position. You know, you're being exposed as someone who promotes censorship, who actually doesn't believe in so-called liberal values. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, you don't actually believe in that. You're an imperialist. You are indistinguishable from neoconservatives on foreign policy. They don't like this. They can't tolerate that. So they're like an animal being backed into a corner. They freak out. They just start name calling, hissing, everything except rational discussion because they cannot rationally defend their positions once they've been exposed. And that's what's going on here. Syria is under three occupations. And of course, they will come and say, yeah, but Syria already did that. There is no opposition in Syria. There's no opposition in Russia. No. This is something else. 11 opposition parties taking over the media. That's different. You know that's different. And it's not the same. But of course, you can't reason with people like that. What I'm doing here is I'm calling out their hypocrisy and I'm exposing to the double standard of how when Western countries do this thing, where they censor their opponents, be it through big tech or even just political decisions, in this case in Ukraine, that's always okay. But if an official enemy does it, that's never okay. That's authoritarianism. It's, dictatorship and so on. We understand the game. We get it. And of course, you'll have people who say that, well, this is just temporary, right? They say it's just, they'll say Zelensky declared martial law because there's a war on, and the suspension of these political parties is just during this period. Yeah, again, that doesn't change anything I said, because even if Bashar al-Assad did that, even if Putin did that, they would still call that a purge, right? They would liken it to what Stalin did or something. They would say, oh, he's the new Stalin. Again, they can't make their minds up if he's Hitler or Stalin. And then, of course, they would say that it's a dictatorship and so on. It doesn't change anything about what I said, right? I'm just reporting to you that Zelensky, at least officially, what he's claiming is that this is just for during this current period, during Ukraine being under martial law, right? So the quote was that any activity of a number of political parties during the martial law is suspended. And again, ask yourself why he picked these parties and none of the parties that have ties to neo-Nazis. Very interesting choice. A very interesting choice. I'd love to know the answer to that. And people will come and say, well, the reason he can't do that is because the Azov battalion and the political parties in Ukraine that they have ties to, that apparatus, the right-wing apparatus, the nationalist apparatus, they are actually effective, right? They're the strongest. And so now again, they've exposed themselves, because when you say, look, there are Nazis in Ukraine, why isn't anyone talking about this? There are neo-Nazis in Ukraine. They tell you that, yeah, but that's just a minority. And then when it suits them, say, hey, but those guys are really powerful. We need them on our side. They have no problem aligning themselves with fucking Nazis then all of a sudden. They always got some other excuse, always shifting the goalposts. It's really incredible to witness.